spirit of adventure can take you to many interesting places. In life and the kitchen. Let me share a secret recipe. Discover an ingredient that fires your imagination. Choose other flavors to match. Find the best way to cook them. My secret recipe? Cooking without a recipe. Every day of the week, decisions. What's for dinner tonight? Well, if your world's anything like mine, your family's schedule, a busy day, even the weather all have to be considered when you're trying to make plans. But fortunately, some days you don't even have to think about what's for dinner. That decision is already made for you. We didn't get to this shoulder of lamb on the weekend, which means that today is its big day. It kind of looks like a leg of lamb, and just like a leg of lamb, it's tender, it's juicy, it's got lots of flavor. But unlike a leg of lamb, a lamb shoulder has lots of connective tissue. That means it needs to cook slowly. That also means I've got lots of time to add more flavor to it. Where shall we take that lamb today? Well, that first decision was actually pretty easy, lamb for dinner. This decision should be pretty easy too, because I'm surrounded by a world of flavor here. In fact, lamb is commonly cooked all over the globe. In the Mediterranean with olives and tomatoes, in northern Africa with dried fruit and dried nuts. But you know, one of Rachel's favorite flavors is a nice lamb curry. She actually backpacked all over India for 3 months once, and she came home with quite an appetite for Indian flavors. I think it'd be a good day to take that lamb trekking. So, to get this lamb curry started, I'm going to need some more flavors. Now, I've never actually been to India, but the more I get to know its food, the more I realize how simple it really is. I guess Indian cooks know that simple is best too. Now, Indian food has a little bit of spice kick to it. It tends to have a little heat mixed into it. But just how much spice, just how much heat, that's up to you. I have some habaneros, the world's hottest pepper. I'm not using those today. I've got some jalapenos. They're actually relatively mild. And somewhere in the middle is the standard green chili. That's what I'll use today. Now, as I said, you can control the heat, and here's a good way to do it. Slice this baby in half just like this. And then get rid of the seeds. Believe it or not, that part right there, the seeds and what's called the pith, is the single hottest part of that pepper. You get rid of that stuff right there, you're going to tone that pepper way down. And that goes for any pepper. All right, I'm ready to kick off this flavor base. You know, a lamb curry is basically just a stew, and like any good stew, it has 3 simple parts. It begins with a flavor base, onions, garlic, chili pepper, and then you add body to it, simmering liquids, and then you braise it. So you've got a base, body, and braise. It couldn't be simpler. So I'm just going to sweat these down a little bit, heat them through. The onions and garlic will start to release their aromas. The flavor base will start to build. So for the lamb. Now generally when you buy a lamb shoulder, it comes in a webbing like this, and you could just take it and roast it in the oven, but you can also cut off the webbing and dice up the lamb shoulder, just like this. There we go. Those chunks will also make it easier for all that connective tissue to dissolve into the broth. But I'm not ready to add the lamb to the pot just yet. First comes the curry. That looks like some flavor right there. So just stir it around for a moment or two until you really smell the aromatic curry, and then add your lamb. Now at this point, it's a good idea to turn that heat down a little bit before you start adding liquids. Curry powder's delicate. You don't want to burn it. Now before I start adding liquids to the pot, Now's a good time to add some more vegetables. Not just any vegetables, root vegetables. Probably because root vegetables are among the most inexpensive and easily found vegetables in all styles of cooking. And of course, they can handle an hour's worth of stewing. So I'm just going to chunk these up and toss them on in. I've added roughly equal amounts of vegetables and meat. Now it's time to add the body of the stew, some liquids. Now here's a simple decision. A can of crushed tomatoes are a great way to add rich body and colorful flavor to any stew. Very traditional. And of all the canned tomatoes, crushed tomatoes are the easiest to stir into a stew. Let's just top it off with some water. So basically what I'm looking for is the liquid level to just come up to the top of the vegetables and the meat. And that's ready to simmer. And while it does and that lamb dissolves into that curry goodness, I definitely have time to play with some more Indian flavors. Rachel and Gabe are playing in the backyard, and I'm trekking through India. And since we all love the flavors of India, that's where we're headed for dinner. You know, like many things in life, Indian food may at first seem difficult because it's different. But you know, things that are different can be simple too, like my Indian lamb curry. It's just a lamb stew. And like any stew, it has three simple parts. A flavor base, onions, garlic, chili, and curry powder. And for its body, thick tomatoes and lots of water. And the third part has just begun. A nice, long, slow, comfortable braise. Now there's one more thing in India that curry always includes, and that's quite simply a rice. Now normally I would choose the wholesome flavor of a brown rice, but today's curry, well, it's looking for a little authenticity, and India's most popular rice is definitely basmati. Highly aromatic, packed full of flavor, and full of this intense perfume. Now, cooking basmati rice is as simple as cooking any other type of white rice. All you have to remember is how much water to add to the pot. So for every cup of rice, you should add 1.5 cups of water. Now, of course, if you wanted to, you could add stock, but in India, that's not normally done. Water works just fine. Now, all this needs is a pinch of salt and some heat. All over the world, cooks find local aromatic ingredients to jazz up their cooking. Spices. They're found in many places in nature. Roots, bark, nuts, seeds, berries, even flowers. They all have a common trait: powerful flavor. They all can also be skillfully blended. For instance, chili powder, a blend of spices, Chinese 5-spice, and of course, Indian curry powder. This is actually a blend of many different spices. And here's another Indian spice blend, my homemade garam masala. Garam masala, an aromatic blend from the north, is one of my favorites. Blend together cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, cumin, and a touch of peppercorn. Don't worry too much about the proportions at first. Equal parts of each spice combined together will taste quite authentic, but feel free to adjust the flavors as you please. That's what an Indian cook would do. Then blend away. Now, of course, I don't want to add too much garam masala. I don't want to overwhelm the natural aromatic qualities of that basmati rice. I just want to add a little hint of complementary, mysterious flavor. And of course, once I ladle this curry over top of that rice, it's going to add lots of contrasting flavor too. Oh, tons of flavor. Wow. Hey, that green chili pepper's starting to kick in. This has a little bit of zing, a nice little bit of zing. You know, Indian cooks make a perfect condiment to balance out the spicy heat of their curries. They call it raita. For that, I'll simply need some yogurt, some cucumber, and some mint. And it's so simple to make. All you have to do is take a cucumber, grate it. This is actually one of the first things that Rachel made for me in the kitchen. She impressed me with its simple flavors, that's for sure. And after the cucumber comes a couple of big heaping spoonfuls of plain yogurt. Should do it. And lots of cool, refreshing mint. And it's the combination of yogurt and mint that makes this such a good foil for spicy food. The mint, of course, has that nice cooling effect, but yogurt has lots of acid in it, and it takes something acidic to cut that spicy heat in your mouth. It works so well, and it tastes great too. Okay, I'll just chop this up a bit. There we go. In goes the mint, followed by a little bit of salt. All I need to do is just stir this all together. Cool, cool. That raita is going to be perfect for cutting the spicy heat of this curry. Now, I've been keeping an eye on this basmati. As soon as it comes to a simmer, turn it down to low and pop a lid on it. And in about 20 minutes or so, you'll have one of the tastiest rices in the world. Basmati rocks. Now, how about some Indian street food?
How many legs he has.
Rachel and Gabe are somewhere on the globe having a good time. I'm not sure where, but I do know that I'm flavor trekking through India. I've discovered that in life and the kitchen, something new can also be something simple, like the incredible flavors of India. This colorful lamb curry is simmering away and aromatizing the whole house. Like any good stew, it began with a flavor base. Onions, garlic, chili, and curry powder. Then for simmering body, I added tomatoes and water. Now it's slowly and comfortably braising. You know, one of the best ways to learn about the world is through food, which is why when I travel, I'm always looking for local flavor. I eat in restaurants and hotels, of course, but for true authenticity and inspiration, I go to the street. Which often means pancakes. In Russia, they're called blinis. In China, baobing. And in India, they're known as adai, savory pancakes that are made from a variety of flours like chickpea flour. I'll also need some baking powder, an onion, and some garlic. I'll also need an egg and some frozen peas. So I'm going to begin with a cup or so of these. There you go. Now I'll add a single egg, a splash of water, a splash of oil, a little bit of salt, and a whole onion, minus the skin, of course, and a clove of garlic. And now I'll puree away. So this flour is actually made from ground up chickpeas. You can make flours from lots of things other than just wheat. I'll also add some baking powder. Now if you're not familiar with Indian ingredients like, say, chickpea flour, just give some a try. You'll quickly discover that they're very similar to the ingredients you're already using. India is a vast, multifaceted country, so to call its food Indian is a bit like calling the food of Europe European. But much of its cooking does rely on a few basic ingredients. Grains grow in the cooler north, so there the breads are very similar to North America. The names may sound exotic: naan, roti, or chapati, but you'll find the flavors are really quite familiar. In the hotter south, the food is spicier, often vegetarian, and usually accompanied by a rice. But not just any rice, aromatic basmati rice. Try it for the first time. You'll be amazed at what you've been missing. Of course, anywhere you go, aromatic spices add bright flavor, color, and even healing power to foods. Cumin powder, for instance. It's one of the dominant flavors in curry powder and the world's most common spice. So as it turns out, all cooks share the same goal: simple flavor. And nowhere is that more apparent than in the bright flavors of India. Here's another Indian ingredient. This is ghee, clarified butter, pure butter fat. Now, of course, if you don't have ghee in your refrigerator, it's okay to use any cooking oil to cook these pancakes off, but you will miss out on that pure butter flavor. This is the most common cooking oil used in Indian cooking. Here we go. Here comes the green pancake batter. I can't wait to see what Gabe thinks of these green pancakes. So like any pancakes, the key to cooking these: the heat in your pan. I've got this flame set at just shy of medium, which I find to be the sweet spot when I'm cooking pancakes. Those are looking good. Those are looking really good. But right now, it's time to finish the lamb curry. I'm thinking about some green flavors here at the end, and that means cilantro, the world's most common green herb. I think what I'll do is I'll just chop a bunch of this right up. And because the stems are nice and tender too, I'm just going to chop right through them as well. They've got loads of cilantro flavor as well. There we go. Okay, I'll stir that in. Now here's something that I wouldn't normally stir into a stew at the end of the cooking process. This is the same curry powder I started out with. Now in Western cooking, you traditionally don't add spices at the end of the cooking process, but here it makes perfect sense. Curry is a bright flavor, and I've just brightened up this stew at the last second. It's going to mean lots of extra flavor at the table. I went for a little stroll in the kitchen today and ended up in India. On my way to filling the table with lots of authentic flavors, I discovered that in life and the kitchen, something new can be just as easy as something familiar, like these pea pancakes. They're just like the ones I normally make, except they have a different flour, chickpea flour, and instead of blueberries, they've got peas in them, and they're green too. Here's an easy condiment to serve with those pancakes. I've got a jar full of cilantro. I'm going to add a hot chili pepper to it, a little bit of cumin seed, and some lemon. This is the kind of super simple condiment that you'd find on an Indian table. Lots of bright flavors to go with those pea pancakes. And just to help all this puree, I'll add a splash of water. That should do it. And here we go. Right. And now for the star of the show, my lamb curry. Now, of course, no curry is complete without some rice. And I just happen to have some basmati rice ready to go, the world's most aromatic rice. This stuff is loaded with flavor. Okay, I'll start with a spoonful of basmati. and a ladle full of lamb curry. And that decision we all face every day, what's for dinner? Well, that was the easiest part of all today. I had a shoulder of lamb that I didn't get to on the weekend. Next thing you know, I've got a bowl full of Indian flavors. Let's see how it turned out. Perfect. Definitely add that last little bit of curry powder to the curry. It really brightens up the flavors. You know, you can be a culinary tourist in your kitchen too. Try experimenting with the flavors of the world, but don't worry too much about authenticity, because after all, simplicity is way more important than perfection. What really matters is that dinner tastes great and you had fun making it.
What do we have here?
Lamb curry. Can I have a little bit here too?
Sure.
Try a bite. I think you're gonna like that.
I want more.
Want to try a little piece of lamb, Gabe? What's your favorite?
It smells like India, Michael.
What's that?
Pea pancake. Look, it's the same color as your shirt.
The raita is really nice.
Lots of mint. Ready? Is that a good one? Check out the rice. See what's in it.
What's in it?
I see some flavor, Daddy.